Welcome back to For the Love of Men podcast. My name is Courtney Shand, and I'm hosting with my dear friend, Brianna Mosier.
Hi.
The intention of the show is to bring together men and women to create healthy, polarized relationship dynamics by learning how to honor each other's natural, masculine and feminine energetic core. That was a mouthful. Today,
What's wrong?
I feel the joke.
You felt that?
Yes.
Well, we all know what the topic is today.
We know what we're talking about today.
I love that you picked up on that. Go ahead, Courtney.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about you and me.
We're talking about sex again because this is Bree's zone of genius, and we're going to have a little overlap here. A little education, a little overlap, and a good takeaway point so that you feel educated and empowered.
You know what to do.
You know what to do, what to say, how to show up so that you can show up in the most empowered way in your dating and relationship experiences, especially in physical intimacy.
Yes. Amen.
Okay. So, Bree, before we dive in, this is, like I said, your zone of genius. Tell people why you're so genius at it, your training, all of your years of study.
Thank you.
Yes.
So part of my formal background is in sex, love, and intimacy coaching. So I went through a program to learn all about comprehensive sex education and how to work with people directly on developing skill sets and insight and giving them tools to have the most pleasurable, safe, healthy experience within sex, love, and intimacy parameters. Everything from communication to anatomy to understanding your body, turn on, turn off, so role playing, communication. I already say communication, but
it's important.
Can't say it enough. To I don't really use the word dysfunction as much, but that's what's top of mind, so I'm going to say it. Things like erectile dysfunction or things with women where is it called vaginismus? It's not like I'm discrediting myself already, not knowing the name, but there's women's bodies can actually lock up when they feel unsafe and their entire vaginal opening will not. The body denies access. And Courtney and I talk a lot about mind, heart, body opening, and that's truly a medical condition for women. So anyway, comprehensive sex education, and it's made me very passionate about giving people the tools and the skills that they need to have great sex and be in their bodies and feel good about it, feel shame-free about it, and empowered. So along with that, I do feminine energy work and work with really driven women, help them grow their businesses, help them access their feminine energy, attract healthy love. But pleasure is a little special nuance. It feels like a secret weapon because our country really makes it so taboo that when you come into a coaching container, it's like you get to take the mask off and sit with somebody who's educated in that place and wants to hear about it. You can't tell me anything I haven't heard. So, yeah, period. Courtney, you are mindful, bodyful, your background as a dietitian, feminine energy, all of this leads to pleasure. Nourished, your program, emphasis on healing the relationship with pleasure with food.
Yep.
Tell the people.
Yes, I have been working in this domain probably, I'd say 7 years now was my first training in this particular thing. I've been working in the domain of nutrition as it relates to pleasure. And like Bree said, being able to talk about the experience of pleasure. My frame is more in a food sense, being in your body, and the dysfunction. My dysfunction is more dysfunction relationship-wise. Relationship to food, relationship to pleasure, relationship to other people that starts to kind of come out sideways, especially around pleasure. So this is something that I have been studying and applying to people's relationship with food for about 7 years now. Trained in feminine energy, that was when things really started to click because I had new language of where the dysfunction was happening energetically and was able to use some of those tools to help women really step into their own experience in their body and really feel from the inside out what is pleasurable for them, how to give and receive in that way. Not necessarily sexually, but a lot of similarities. There's a lot of overlap and nuance to it. So we're gonna be bringing both sides of this conversation, and I think you'll have a lot to take away.
Yeah, it's a juicy one.
I'm excited. That being said, let's dive in. Pleasure.
Yes, ma'am.
Pleasure, let's just talk about from like high level. when we're talking about pleasure, like with clients, what are we talking about? When they come into that context with us, what is it that you like for them to understand to get started? If you don't mind sharing, if that's not too coach.
No, not at all. I think we're going to have almost identical answers. Pleasure as a whole is not just erotic pleasure. Erotic pleasure to me is more like the whipped cream or the cherry on top to the actual sundae of understanding pleasure in life, which is being alive inside your body. And for numerous reasons, so many of us are disconnected from our body, whether it's overworking, overconsumption of anything, of drugs, of media, of alcohol. Trauma will keep you out of your body for the longest because your body tries to protect you from feeling the pain. So any unresolved emotions, trauma, things like that, again, for a number of reasons, we leave our bodies. And when we leave our bodies, we also leave our emotionality, we leave our sensations, and we leave our sense of pleasure. From laughing and having fun with friends pleasure to sensual pleasure, like laying in the sun by the pool, which is what I plan to do later. And adventurous pleasure to go rock climbing and be alive inside your body. See it as a vehicle you get to walk in the world through, right? And like experience all of life. But people often narrow it down to just sexual pleasure. No. However, if all those other pieces, if you're alive in your body, connected to sensations, trusting your body, taking her out in the world places, feeling all those sensations, sex is the easy part. And then the mental chatter too is also an emphasis, especially to my business clients. How to have a mindset of pleasure is to weed out those thoughts that keep you disconnected from it, even disempowering thoughts. Keep yourself out of the weeds of, I'm not good enough, or I look this way, or I should be more this or that. What does he think about me? Your mental chatter is going to contribute so much to how much you allow yourself to open up and receive pleasure versus close down. So your mind is a big component as well, having pleasurable thoughts, having a pleasurable mindset.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Something you always say is just because it feels better to think that.
Yeah. It's not like you lie to yourself, you just find a better feeling thought. And the last component, and then I want to pass the ball to you because I feel like you have a lot to say about this, especially for driven women, is healing their relationship to pleasure instead of productivity. They usually think it's either or, and pleasure is something to be earned, whether it's erotic or adventurous or sensational, those sort of things. They think they need to be productive, and then I can be in pleasure. And when I work with clients, I actually flip it on their head and have them build up a big tank of pleasure to the point where they're overflowing. So, I'm going to go take action and use all this pleasure to create things in the world, not wait till my tank is empty and then I deserve it. It's just so backwards. So, and I know you teach this, helping women heal their relationship to pleasure versus productivity.
Yep. Mine's in the context of a couple different things, but the relationship that we have to pleasure, I often partner with hunger because, similar to productivity, we want to experience life as life is happening and life's unfolding. And when you can trust yourself to experience higher sensations in your body, more of them, they're not going to be overwhelming and cause that shutdown response. So the pattern that we want to start breaking is to stay available to that as it's happening. I remember a conversation 2 houses ago for you. We were in the kitchen and you were talking about learning this stuff. You had just started enrolling in this, and I was like, makes total sense that you have to expand the amount of pleasure that you can be with, because the nervous system is so wired to shut down to anything that is foreign or unfamiliar or stretchy. We actually have to really consciously let it unfold from the body up. So that being said, when I work with clients on pleasure, it's a few things, but I would say that my clients tend to be coming from either I find a lot of times it's coming from a child energy place. They haven't been objectively taught about pleasure in general, and therefore they have little context as to how to rein it in so that they feel in charge. And the reason that I kind of juxtapose it with hunger is we know what hunger feels like, but it's equally scary for us to feel what pleasure feels like. So to eat, to just enjoy, or to really maximize how much you're experiencing by whatever appetite, your, sorry, I've got a hair that is, man, this is the worst.
A wild hair on her arm.
Oh, it tickles. That is allowing you to experience the fullness of life in any capacity. So yeah, trauma will shut us down, generational patterns will shut us down, our own history will shut us down, and the work is really to step into your body and live full out, to be with more of the sensations.
Well said. And I'm sure people have all kinds of rules. I've revealed on other episodes I used to do the fitness world, and it was such a warped relationship of having pleasure from food. It was almost like there was a reward if you don't have pleasure from food. And it's the same way often in business and in life, right? Like whether or not we realize it, we're often agreeing to this unconscious script of if I suffer more, then I'm more worthy. Then I can have this glimpse of pleasure and be okay. If I suffer for this many years or this many hours a day, well, then I can sit down and have chocolate chips and eat Netflix. Does that show up in your work with food too?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, when you were saying that you need to have a big pleasure tank so that you can just spill over into your life, it's the same. It really is flipping this dysfunctional relationship that we have over so that you're living from an empowered, integrated feminine space where you experience life instead of just having life come at you.
So good. So we want to give you, we got to give them some tools and skills.
For sure.
You know, we keep our boundaries on what goes into coaching relationships just to, it's fair to our clients, it's fair to ourselves and all the things. But we want to give you some wins. And of course, if you want more, Courtney's program, Nourished, there's a link in the show notes to that. I have a program called the Pleasure Program for vulva owners if you really want to get into the erotic side of pleasure, but I teach in depth the base of understanding pleasure too there too, so that's an option. When we were getting ready for this show, we've been wanting to introduce this topic of education at least in the US around sexuality and sex ed and all these things. And it's disappointing that most of the country still teaches abstinence only. Some of the country, I know this is kind of shocking, but like some of the country doesn't even mandate you to teach consent or STI prevention. Certainly nobody's mandating pleasure.
That's the least of their worries.
And isn't it interesting, because why do people have sex? Pleasure. Other than procreation. And how many times are you having sex to procreate? A lot of times you have sex in your life. You know? So
such a great point.
It really just, it blows my mind that there's no information, and unfortunately people are leaving not being fully educated on how to have a great, healthy, safe experience and communication skills, and even higher level how to protect themselves from really unsafe situations, especially children, young people who aren't educated around comprehensively how to be in their bodies and what is okay and not okay for adults to do and things like that. So it's pretty alarming. We were looking at some statistics before the show and both kind of like, oof.
Yeah.
Taken aback.
Yeah. What a great point. Because if you, when you're drawn to something like something pleasurable and you have no guidance as far as how to get there safely, you're either there or not. And you've got so many steps to get there in a healthy way before it starts to just come out sideways, is what I see. And I think that probably shows up in the dysfunction that happens in your client's world too, where they're either in a weird relationship to it or they just don't at all, way over here or way not. They're kind of in this black and white paradigm, and there's so much nuance and so much skill that would get you there in a way that feels really empowering and safe.
Yeah.
It makes it feel very unsafe, and therefore you avoid it if you don't have actual steps that help you know, hey, I'm, you know, this step, this step, this step, this step. I know how to do them. I know what they are. I see them. Yeah, such a miss.
And so shame-based, right? And if you're an adult listening to this, I would be so curious to hear. Feel free to write into either one of us. I'm at Building Free Coaching for Instagram. Courtney is Courtney_Shand. You can message the show, the For the Love of Men podcast. can email us anything you'd like. I would love to hear about what your sex education was like and how it's impacted you as an adult. Because I grew up in a very sex positive household, not a shocker that I do what I do, but I do remember being in sex ed and feeling so much shame about having natural curiosity and desire.
Interesting.
And it's the shame base that makes people, like Courtney's saying, spill out in other areas. And when we're not getting our information from an intentional source who's going, this is an age appropriate way to teach this, it's, you know, where your brain development is, this is good for you to understand, you can protect yourself with this. We're going to look other places. We're going to look in the media. You're going to go on websites. You're going to talk to your such and such's older brother, blah, blah, and learn things. And to me, that's where the biggest gap is. And then you leave with all this shame about, I have these natural curiosities and urges of this body that was given to me by whatever you believe in. I'm born into it. I can't help it. Your body is wired for pleasure circuitry. It's amazing when you think about it, especially if you're a woman. You have an organ within which the only purpose is pleasure. There is no other purpose for that. And it's a lot bigger than you think. Come into the pleasure program if you want to learn about it. So to me, it's just very divine, right? Whatever higher power you believe in, you're in this body, and I think it's fair to have the information given to you. But when you don't, you might internalize a lot of shame when people are telling you, just don't have sex, abstinence only. Well, just don't, and that's how you stay safe. Safe from what? Like, why is it a bad thing if there's protection and consent? There's actually no risk at all, you know?
That's the skill that you're being stripped of. I think that's important to know.
Yeah.
When you're in a black-white paradigm like that, that's the skill that you're being stripped of, is your own sense of safety.
Yeah. Right, and then not knowing what's right or wrong because you don't have any scaffolding to know.
Yes, you stay in this like less mature space instead of growing up and integrating. And then you enter the dating pool and have all the trauma that you've built up and have minimal skills. And now you're wondering, what the heck am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, I think I said this on the last show. I remember the first time that I had sex feeling like, why this was so, like, what's the hype? You know, like I didn't get it. I didn't really enjoy it. And it had to do with the fact that there was no pleasure education. Like, I grew up in a sex positive household, but my parents weren't like that. You know, they weren't teaching me the pleasure circuitry of my body. And so that was something I had to really learn about on my own, which is a bummer because it's confusing, especially as young women. You don't have to share your experience, obviously, but I often say in my space that men are like skillets and women are like crockpots. Meaning it takes a woman about 40 minutes to become fully aroused, for her body to respond physiologically between, you know, everything getting flushed and heated up and arousal, lubrication, all these things. It takes about 7 to 11 for a man. And so that's why the orgasm gap exists. You know, there's statistics talking about how much more often men have orgasms than women do. And I really think if we boil this down, we're going to find a lot is in this lack of education around your body, and then also the shame, because the shame makes this big layer where you think, not only am I bad for having this desire and curiosity, but I have no information about it. And then when I go to inevitably explore it, I also feel intense guilt and shame about even thinking about it or exploring it. Period.
Well, mic drop. There we go.
So anyway, what should we talk about for the rest of the show?
All right. Well, that was it. That was fully loaded. There we go.
I think so I could get on my high horse forever about that, but maybe let's talk more about how they can get in their body with pleasure and start developing that base. But I know this feels kind of like 2 episodes. Forgive me, I'm at the end of my cycle, so my brain is a little bit like, coming back online. But feel free to write into the show. I would actually truly love to hear your experience with sex education and what it made you believe about yourself, about pleasure, and then what are you going to do going forward to shift that? And you know we have resources. I have a free video too, the Power of Your Pleasure or something. It's in the show notes. You can look at that. Yeah.
Amazing. So we'll move into how to resolve this. Okay. If you've been listening to the show for a while, we have talked about feminine energy. Go back and listen to episodes 4 and 5, I think, are the empowered feminine energy. And I think 12 is around
How to be more feminine or something.
one of those. Yeah, in the teens. It's early on of how to receive more, or how to get into your feminine energy. That would be where I would start. But you have to actually be in your body. And I know it's easier said than done, and we both have different modalities to get you there. But when you can start to pay attention to, at the level of sensation, what's going on in your body, and then move inward. That's what I always teach, because the nervous system unwinds naturally when we do it that way. And I think a lot of times we try to get into the deep-rooted trauma and emotions, and that's definitely what I did, and spent way longer than need be. If you can start with just the sensations and just stay curious about the sensations, and then allow yourself to move inward. High level, that's going to be what I would suggest. Any different?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start, 100%. And I would piggyback that your body knows the pace that is best for you. So I wouldn't go digging or searching for trauma to heal. I think I would agree that's a mistake a lot of people make, because you end up in a drama circle. She's gonna come up.
It'll find you. Don't worry. It's coming to you.
It didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It didn't disappear.
Nope.
Unfortunately.
Nope. Yes, exactly. The pace is going to be perfect if you can allow it to come to you. The trauma will come up. It will bubble up. And that's okay. And to learn the skills to be with it just a little bit more and more. We have a really good masterclass that's coming to mind of how to navigate triggers. Might be really helpful in this context too.
I know that's something I teach in my courses. I'm sure you teach how to process that in your courses too.
Yes.
And as you start processing those, as you start feeling your feelings and feeling your sensation, right? The internal, what are my gut feelings, my emotions, and the external, when someone touches my arm or the wind on my skin, whatever. You just bring more awareness and presence to it. Consciously doing that is actually going to do a world of improvement for you. You're becoming alive inside your body. And I will say, at least in the experience with my clients, sometimes it can feel like, as Courtney nodded to earlier, a lot. Because when you've been not feeling or not attuned to yourself, kind of shut down, head disconnected from body, even 10% more feels like, whew, that's 10% more, that's overwhelming. So go at your own pace, and I would just urge you to go as fast as the slowest part of you. Yeah. That way you don't overwhelm, like Court has said, and then find yourself retracting and throwing the whole thing out the window.
Yeah. I find the more that I work with people, like the pace that I used to take people through, even the Nourished content, I've expanded it 10x at this point, because it actually does take longer than you think. And in order to not have to redo this work over and over again, I'm not saying this to scare people, but I do want to just normalize that the healing takes time.
Longer than you want.
The time, yes, you'll get triggered by how quickly you want to have this done. And that'll cause you to go in different ways. But if you can just be patient with the process, it does unfold at the perfect time. And the more that you're able to stay with that, the higher levels of pleasurability that you can be with without getting triggered back into shutdown. And the more you're going to trust yourself when you experience that sensation, wherever you're feeling the pleasurable sensation that you like. Instead of like shirking away or shutting it down, you're going to be able to stay with it, and new things open up. And then you can take the next step forward. So
good. Yeah, well said. And every time you do that, you are doing two things, in my opinion: letting your body know that you hear her and you honor her, which in turn creates more safety. And the more safe you feel to be in your body, not only feel sensations, but also to feel your feelings, the more you teach your body, hey, I can feel disappointment, sadness, turn on, excitement. I'm going more for the negative ones though, because that's what people avoid, right?
Shame.
Yeah, shame. Anger. And I won't die. I know it sounds so silly, but every time you teach your body, I can feel this. Not only can I feel this, but now I have a skill set, because I've worked with Courtney and Bree in their courses. And now I have a skill set for containment and also to move and alchemize this energy. That's going to expand your capacity to feel. And when you expand your capacity to feel, you expand your capacity for pleasure.
Mic drop number 2.
Period.
That's it.
And if you go there with yourself, you feel safe to go there with a partner. I've found with myself and with clients, it can be difficult, at least for me in the beginning of kind of reconnecting to my pleasure. It was really hard to go somewhere with my partner that I hadn't been on my own, because I'd come off a lot of trauma and was still kind of healing that, and my body just didn't feel safe enough yet. And instead of making that wrong, you heal your connection to your body by listening to her. Oh, you're not ready for that? Okay, I hear you. There's no race to be the orgasm queen.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just be with her right where she's at. Isn't that what we all want anyway? Yeah.
The metaphor that I think I've heard you say before, and hopefully I'm not oversharing, but that the process, it's something about the different stages of the process. If you can't enjoy each part of the process, the end is not going to matter.
The end does not justify the means.
Yes. And this is something that I think, especially in healing the relationship to pleasure erotically, that you are genius at that parallel of being in the moment and just experiencing what you're experiencing and letting that be its own source of pleasure.
I think this equally applies to men and women. We were talking about this a little before the show too. I know it sounds like we're talking mostly to women, and to be honest, I think we both have a soft spot for empowering women in this area because it's our own experience, right? We've overcome these things.
We've seen the lack. We know where the gaps are. So.
We felt them. We've healed them.
Yeah.
Like, we are on the journey with you.
We're here.
And in talking to men, working with men, I've noticed men have their own unique pulse on pleasure and what it means to be in their body. And what feels relevant to say in this episode is the relationship that what are healthy people? Integrated people. She knew the answer. She just drank the water. And so even if you're a masculine being, you have feminine energy. You know that by now. The more integrated he is with his own feminine energy, the more depth he'll be able to bring to his feminine partner out here. You love where I'm going with this? So the more that he's connected to his own body and own sense of pleasure, he's attuned to the moment. He can feel the nuances of the moment, the emotions. He can feel where her body's at, what she needs more of. And I don't know that it's a conscious thing so much as when he's connected to his own feminine energy, his own intuition, emotions, pleasure, body, he's going to be able to feel her a lot more, and it's palpable to her. In fact, I would bet a lot that that's the key piece women are having a hard time articulating that is missing from their experience.
1,000%.
Attunement.
Yes.
They feel his lack of attunement and lack of embodiedness, and she's asking herself, why can't I feel him in this experience?
Just take a moment for Breeze to
So,
moment of silence here. Let that sink in.
I love this work. I'm obsessed. Can I keep talking?
Yes. Okay. And scene.
And scene. So yes, the benefit is to her, but it's also to you, men listening. Don't you want to know the depth of your own pleasure and presence? Don't you want to feel that like magical, only can be described as cosmic connection between you and your partner? That connectivity, the synergy, like the, oh my gosh, are we in one body or two bodies? That kind of feeling with your partner. You just can't get there if you're not connected to yourself and your own body and your emotions as a man. It's not going to happen because you're not connected to your own heart, and it's heart-to-heart connection that brings that.
Oh.
It's not just erotic energy, right? And great sex is not just about orgasms. It's not just about coming or what you physically do and how you touch each other. It's the energy you're both in. I have an entire module in the pleasure program that will teach you what you specifically need to have great sex. And it has nothing to do with how someone touches you. It has everything to do with the feelings that you want to feel. And I walk you through a process where you get to hear a bunch of menu options and feel into which feelings that you are seeking out of sex. And then when you know that, you can communicate it, and you and your partner can both have these incredibly fulfilling experiences, out of this world experiences. Once you take your eye off of like, I need to come 6 times or do all this Kama Sutra stuff. It's like, that's just awesome, but also not the nail on the head. It's gonna feel like something's missing. And I'm sure you've had experiences like that where objectively it was great, but something about it was empty. That's the missing piece. Okay, that's all I have to say. Back to you, Courtney.
Wow. Wow. How am I supposed to follow that up? I'm still just like mesmerized in Bree's genius.
You are really hyping me up today, and I don't hate it. Courtney gave me this shirt before we started filming.
It was gifted to me. Just passing things along. Girls, you know. So much fun getting clothes from someone else, because it's like, I would never pick this out, but...
And I wasn't expecting it.
This was Bree's shirt. This was one that she gave me.
Oh my gosh, that's true. We did exchange shirts today. I was just bringing that up because you were hyping me up. You're like, let me get her a new outfit. Let me just keep fanning her flames.
I love that. I would say what we were talking about before the show started is the piece for men when it comes to pleasure, as I've studied pleasure energetically, tantric work, emotionally healthy relationship dynamics, and physiology, is that the more a man is in his body, it's the same thing as women, the more he's going to experience life for all life has to offer. Yeah. He's naturally going to be picking up on more pleasure. The men who live in their head and walk through the world miss out on opportunities for pleasure all day. Therefore, that pleasure tank is not full, which is what we're both advocating for. Let's flip that over so that your pleasure tank is naturally full. You don't earn it. It's part of life, and you know how to regulate with it because you have some context for you feeling in charge of how you go get it. It doesn't seep out the sides in weird ways of you trying to get that pleasure tank full because it's already full. Same thing with self-worth. I mean, it's all kind of interconnected. The ways that we don't allow ourselves to have these things are what's going to be driving the behaviors that often are pushing those things away even further. So yeah, I would say that when men are in their body, not only are they going to be sensationally more activated, but energetically they're going to be more perceptible to their feminine partner because it feels safe to have a man who's in his body
and attuned to you,
and attuned to you. That's like one of the safest feelings.
Agreed.
Nervous system wise, it's like, I see you, I'm here, I'm with you. That's what everyone is looking for when you're in your body. You want to know, hey, I'm here.
The presence, right? And the emphasis is on, you also men get to have the most pleasurable experiences. I think there's a lot of education toward women because women are like Crockpots and men are like Skillets, and so a lot of women question, like, but isn't it just easy for you? Isn't that just natural and innate? And in speaking to men, I could be wrong, but as we've nodded to in other episodes, there is so much performance pressure that can take away from your own pleasure. And that's what I'm talking about with, making your mind a really safe place to be. Your self-talk when you're in the bedroom with her, what does that look like?
Wow.
Because that can take you out of the moment, take the pleasure out of you, and keep you in your head, and she's in her head, and it's like both of these floating heads that are just smashing bodies together, but there's no palpable energy of whoa, And I want you to have whoa. So to start filling your pleasure tank, we've told you getting comfortable with your emotions, feeling them, letting them move, your sensations on the outside. So even I used to start with, when I was driving in my car, love my car, they have heated seats. And whenever I was going on long drives, I would set a little timer for 5 minutes and I'd put on my heated seats and my focus would be on driving. And when there wasn't any active, you're just driving on the freeway, I would focus on the heat on my body, the steering wheel between my hands, how comfortable my seat was, land in my body. Even sometimes before I go places, if my brain feels like this, I did that before I got here. Sitting there, okay, I'm alive inside my body, I'm here, I'm present. Pleasure is available in the present. So how do we get ourselves there? Through grounding in the body. So that's a good practice. You can do it anywhere. You can do it when you're walking. Okay, I'm going to focus on the sun on my skin and the breeze on my face, my feet moving against the pavement. All these little things we take for granted. That's a great way to start.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that example too. I think when I was learning this, that was one that was really easy for me, was to feel what's supporting you. Can you let it give you more support? Let your body rest and be at ease, and then receive what's in front of you. Whether it's a nourishing meal, whether it's sun on your face, really let it soak in. I always imagine it like lotion. You know, it's going to soak in either way. You just have to let it be there and it will absorb in. So the same is true like sunshine. Let it be on your face and trust that it's absorbing. And if you can feel that absorption, try it. There's an experience to it that really shifts things. So that would be my suggestion. But yeah, I would say start with what's in front of you and see how much of it you can perceive using your sensations. Touch, smell, taste, sight, sound.
Yeah.
Did all of them. And then interoception, which is your experience of yourself, the inside, what's happening on the inside for you.
Yeah. Once you get pretty good at this, your body's so smart. Like, as you start to bring awareness, you don't really have to do much other than this. She's going to naturally open up more, and I think you're going to notice it when we're talking about erotic pleasure, when you are in those situations with yourself or somebody else. It'll be palpable. As you start healing that, I would invite you to explore the erotic side of pleasure too. So maybe you want to look at like erotic blueprints. That work is amazing. Learning about, you know, are you a sexual or a kinky type, or there's a bunch of different categories. You can take a quiz online. Any sort of, what does sex mean to me? What feels good to me? In the pleasure program, I teach women how to pleasure map. So you go through your entire body, different sensations, feeling which parts. You can even vulva map. I hope I can say vulva on YouTube.
We'll see.
Where you're mapping all different types of your outer labia and inner labia and what sensation feels. I mean, really, pleasure work, you can go so deep. And to me, it just comes back to like, we're given the most magnificent machines to walk around the world in. Incredible things our body can do. I don't want to die not knowing how much pleasure I could experience. Emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, all of it. Like, what can this machine do? And what is it like co-creatively with my partner, you know, somebody you trust and you love? I mean, that is just magic.
Wow.
And I don't want to miss out on it. So there's a reclamation piece too. You just decide, you know what? I get to have my body back. I get to have my pleasure back. And even though society's trying to tell me this is wrong, to rush, to overwork, to leave my body, to just repress how I feel, to ignore my erotic urges. That's little baby Britty. Say hi, Britty. I'm making that reclamation for myself that this body is mine and I get to inhabit it how I please. I get to be alive inside my body. Period. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So if you're loving this and you'd like more, if you want to learn the nutrition perspective of pleasure, feminine energy, all these things. I don't know another person who teaches it how Courtney teaches it. Nourished signature program.
Yes, I'm actually going to be leading a group of women through this content, the emotional piece of it. So I have it laid out in 4 sections to really help you get into your body. This is going to be the embodiment and challenge phase. So we're going to be doing some shifting energetically of how you approach these relationships. When we shift them on an energetic level, it is like stepping into a new body and experiencing things from a different vantage point, so that the sensations now come online. You have something to work with blueprint wise. So now you're not just kind of grasping around in the dark. You have something to work with in a felt sense within your body. We create that safety and really allow you to approach these things that have previously been like a landmine for you in terms of moving forward in learning new things, understanding your body, embodying more of your feminine energy, and really activating your body in that state of challenge when you're trying something new, how you respond to that, so that you can keep moving forward in a way that feels really empowering for you and also helps you reach your goals. So these emotional triggers are no longer hanging you up. You can freely move towards these things in an intuitive, really empowered feminine way. So I'm super excited about this content. Again, we're going to be doing that in the fall, September, October, and November. I'm going to hang out until after Thanksgiving, so you still have some extra support from the whole group through the holidays. We'll reset in between the holidays so that you don't have to have that trifecta of holidays kind of slide into the end of the year. So if that's something that you want, I'm going to link that in the show notes. And otherwise, I do this work one-on-one as well. So feel free to check out some options. I'll put those in the show notes too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great that you're taking a break over the holiday too.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it's kind of just a ramp up period for everyone. And then we shame ourselves and then we move into the rest of the holidays on the back foot. And so let's just make sure you have plenty of support through the most challenging time of the year. Shift your whole perspective, try something new, come back, reset, get the support and validation you need for the experience, and then try something different.
I love it.
Yeah.
So good.
I'm so excited for it. And Bree obviously has great resources. This is, again, her zone of genius. So if this is resonating with you, what do they need to check out for
I
you?
mean, you already know the pleasure program is the place to be. Soft and Secure is also my feminine energy healing and embodiment course. Both of these you can take on self-study, and sometimes I bundle them with one-to-one work. So if you want to work with me while you take the courses, I have a couple of those spots. They are filling up really quickly, but at the time of this recording, I have them, so you can use any of the links. You can email me, message me on my new Instagram if you want to work together, and I would be thrilled to do that. Obviously, follow the show, the For the Love of Men podcast on Instagram, and For the Love of Men podcast on TikTok and YouTube. Holy smokes, we're a lot of places.
We're a lot of places. Still growing. We really appreciate you guys being in our community. Yeah, mirror me. Oh, okay. I was like, wow, mirror neurons. Hello. Okay, we're a lot of places, and we were really grateful for our community for following us this whole journey. We hope that it's been really helpful for you, and I hope that this has been really helpful. Feel free to write in. Let us know what your experience with sex ed was like and how that translated to your adulting. We might do another episode on this and really highlight Bree's genius again if she's willing. But otherwise, we'll put all the notes in the show notes below.
If you have questions you'd like us to answer as well, and all things, you know what we cover on the show, feel free to email, send those in. Courtney and I have talked a lot about doing Q&A episodes, so send in your Q's and we'll give you A's. Dad joke. All right, on that note, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Hey, are we out of focus on the top one? That's my only concern.
I don't think so.
If we lean back?
Well,
Or just lean forward more? My head's bigger than...
yeah, there you go. You're like, I want to be the center square.
When
Okay.
I start talking, I'll just do this. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Take it away.